Hello mga ka-agri! Welcome to AgriStorya. The episode will be featured today. Hello to all our viewers, students, farmers, youth, professionals, teachers, and to all who are watching us right now in their respective homes and offices. Tara, mag-AgriStorya na ta! AgriStorya is an online talk series initiated by the College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries of the Caraga State University. This month's AgriStorya will focus on career path in agriculture. Did you miss the episodes of the previous AgriStorya? Do not worry, you can watch the past episodes in YouTube. Just search AgriStorya and the topic you want to view, like career path in animal science, career path in agricultural economics, career path in agronomy, and career path in horticulture. Mga ka-agri, send your greetings, comments, and questions in the live chat. If you're wondering what crop protection is, that is what we are covering today for AgriStorya Web Talk series. For today's AgriStorya resource speaker, he is a brilliant agriculturist. He finished his Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in Central Mindanao University and graduated cum laude in 2008. He also finished his Doctor of Philosophy in Agricultural Science, major in plant pathology at the University of Tasmania, Australia in 2017. He also received numerous awards like Outstanding Researcher Award for the senior category of Natural Sciences at UPLB in just this year. And also, he discovered more than 10 fungi as new country records from the Philippines and co-developed plants with resistance to diseases. Currently, he is a University Researcher 3 and Laboratory Head of the Institute of Plant Breeding, College of Agriculture and Food Science at UPLB. Let us welcome and help me welcome our AgriStorya speaker for today, Dr. Mark Angelo O. Balendres. Let us give him a virtual round of applause, please. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning, Jared. Thanks for having me here, and also thanks for the very kind introduction as well. Yep, so do I have to go straight, Jared?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning. And yes, sir, you may present now.
All right. Just making sure. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And again, thanks. I'd like to thank the Caraga State University for inviting me here today. I hope that I would be able to provide you a decent presentation on why a career choice in crop protection is something to consider if you're a senior high school student, or if you are someone that is about to pick a major for your field. So allow me to thank also the Dean of the College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries, Dean Elizabeth Parap, and also Ms. Joanne Langres for this very kind invitation. Now, the title of our talk will be Choices for Plant Pathology and Crop Protection Science Graduates. Now, I am a plant pathologist, so it will be more on plant diseases, plant pathology, and a general crop protection science. So in this presentation, we'll talk about why we have to consider plant pathology or crop protection, what will and where can a plant pathology or crop protection degree lead you to, what career choices are available for graduates of the BS Agriculture, major in plant pathology and crop protection, and is having a career in plant pathology or crop protection rewarding. Now, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs has estimated that 30 years from now, or less than 30 years from now, the population will rise up to 9.7 billion. That's more than 2 billion from now, and that's in 2050. Now, a big challenge in agriculture to produce the foods that the people or this growing population will eat. And a much more pressing issue is to produce this food with less land and few resources. One solution is, of course, producing healthy plants. Not just healthy plants, but plants that can produce superior yield, improve nutrition, and those plants that can adapt well in various climatic conditions. And plants account for 80% or over 80% of human diet. So I think more than eight major crops are being produced as our staple food, not just for us, but also as feeds for animals that we also eat. The problem, however, is that like humans, plants get sick, and when they are sick, they don't produce the right yield or the right nutrition. So that reduction in yield could be considered in terms of attaining our goal to feed the growing human population. Now, what's really happening in the field right now is that when major diseases strike, there will be disaster. And a good picture to show you would be this one to the left side. And you see that there are plants that are dead already. And then you also have plants that are still growing. So these are resistant plants. Now, these diseases are also responsible for major losses, and about up to 40% of global food production are being affected by these losses. And plant pathologists can help contribute to mitigating this impact. Now, I'll show you two major events in the history where plant diseases are actually making an impact. The first one was in 1942 to 1943 in India, and a disease called brown spot fungus caused by Helmintosporium oryzae before and now Bipolaris oryzae. It actually destroyed about 50 to 90% of the rice crops, and this resulted to millions of people who were dead because of that famine. And for many plant pathologists, the story about the potato late blight is something that we will never forget. This is always used as an example of the impact of diseases on humans and migration as well. So this disease called potato late blight caused infections in potato, and potato was a staple crop in Ireland before. And this particular pathogen did devastated a large number or a widespread infection in potato plants or field in Ireland, and many people died because of the lack of produce during that time. And also some of them have to leave Ireland and go to other places. So that's why people migrated. Some Irish went to Europe. Some of them went to US as well. So many places these Irish migrated. How are we going to address these diseases? So here's an article from Strange and Scott, and they've outlined several ways that we could address the problems caused by these plant diseases. The first one is the speedy and accurate identification of the pathogen. So pathogen is a term used for microorganism that is causing the disease. And I'm going to use pathogen from now on to refer to this that cause the disease on plants. Second is accurate estimates of the severity of the disease and its effect on yield. And then we also have identification of virulence microorganism. And virulence means their ability to cause the disease in a short span of time, and also the severity of the disease that is caused. We also need to reduce the pathogen inoculum. Inoculum means these are parts of the fungus or bacteria that are left in, let's say, in the soil, that when you plant plant the seedling, tomato or pepper, these inoculum are activated and then cause a disease. We also need to produce resistant plants, and you can do this through conventional plant breeding, crossing a resistant and not so resistant plant, but with good commercial value. You also have an option for transgenic modification, where you could put a gene that confers resistance to a particular disease. And finally, there is a need to acknowledge that plant diseases threaten our food supplies and to devote adequate resources to control. And we have to convince our policymakers, politicians, to put effort and put resources while combating these diseases. And I think a good example is the fusarium wilt of banana in Mindanao. So this is a major problem for banana growers. And so without intervention from the government, it is impossible to come up with a very solid plan on how do we address issues or concerns that were caused by these plant diseases. Who will help solve these problems caused by plant diseases? Of course, it's not just one group of people, but it has to be multidisciplinary. But the main people who are going to work are the plant pathologists, because this is the field where they have to focus on the plant diseases. But we also need plant scientists, molecular biologists, soil scientists, even computer science majors, and even biostatisticians. So we have to play every person in this field or fields play a role in ensuring food security through the development of healthy plants or management methods to combat these plant diseases. And right now, we need more plant pathologists. We need more crop protection specialists for you to, and these new plant pathologists and crop protection specialists will be able to contribute to the science, the scientific community, as well as to the growers and farmers as well. And that would ensure that these growers and farmers would be able to produce the right amount of food for the growing human population. And so we need you. So these are some of our research staff. These are young research staff we have in the lab, and hopefully that you would take part as a major plant pathology major student or a crop protection major student. So what do we do as a plant pathologist? So first, we examine pathogens. We look at what they look like in the microscope, or how they look like, or what are the signs of these pathogens. We also isolate pathogens, which means we need to grow them in artificial media, so we could examine what they look like and how they grow in a certain culture media. Then we also monitor diseases in the field. We want to know the impact of these diseases, how wide they could spread in a particular area. We do a lot of laboratory experiments. We prepare chemicals and use these chemicals for different experiments. We do laboratory experiments using molecular-based approach. So we extract the DNA, the RNA, then we do polymerase chain reaction analysis to detect the presence of the pathogen even without the symptom of the disease. And here are some diseases. So we usually collect a lot of these disease samples. We bring them to the lab, but if it is from Mindanao or Visayas, we need to have a certificate from the quarantine officers that we are collecting this for research purposes. We need to follow some certain rules as a plant pathologist. Then do some analysis or preparation of these materials so we could identify what are the causes of these diseases. So the lady in the left side is Monica, and she's working on viruses, while the lady in the right side, Ira, and Ira is working on phytoplasma. So different pathogens require different methods of assessing their characteristics. We also also grow these plants in culture media. It's like a tissue culture method, and we also do screening for resistance using the culture methods. We perform DNA-based technology and also serologically based methods such as ELISA. So if you've heard about COVID-19, so you could use antibody-based methods such as ELISA, or a PCR-based method like the QRT-PCR that is used to detect the presence of the virus. We monitor diseases in the field. We provide support to growers. We tell them that this is what is happening in the field. This is what you can do to mitigate the impact of these diseases. We also evaluate if the pathogen can cause a disease. So if we have isolated a pathogen, we need to make sure that the pathogen can infect the fruit, the leaf, or the stem of the plant that you're testing. We evaluate the resistance of different plants or genotypes, so different accessions or different varieties, and then we inoculate with, let's say, bacteria. So the figure in the left side is we are inoculating bacteria here, and the right side we collect insects from the field. So these insects usually go to the banana at night, so we need to collect them during night as well. So it's pretty exciting, actually. I mean, sometimes it's challenging and scary, but you're with other people, and somehow you will enjoy doing it because you'll be excited to collect different species of whatever insects and then test them whether they contain the virus or not. And also an important part of being a plant pathologist is really to look at different management strategies for a particular disease. So we keep on working on different methods such as cultural, biological, and chemical. Last option would be chemical. But if you can do away with chemical resistance, then that would be much better. We also provide guidance to students, high school, BS, MS, or even PhD, so that they would be able to conduct the study in a way that follows the scientific method, and then you provide some guidance or advices about how they could improve their studies. A part of being a plant pathologist, I think many plant pathology graduates would tend to go on teaching or mentoring students. So the figure from the left was I was in Central Mindanao University during this time, giving a talk to plant breeding major students. And the other photo on the right was in the Benguet State University, where we introduced about spores to genes. This is a method from cultural to molecular techniques in the identification of these pathogens that are causing diseases. A lot of travels if you're collecting samples. So usually every month, almost every month, we have to go somewhere else. So we go to Mindanao, Visayas, collect the samples, go back to the lab and reanalyze the sample as well. If we have to go back to another place, then we have to go back to those places again. So it's pretty much, it's a really nice experience with his collection of samples and working with farmers or growers, and you would be able to really have a feel on the problems that they are experiencing in the field, and you'll be more inspired or motivated to do your work well because you really saw the impact of these diseases in their farming. We also attend and present our work in conferences, and this is one of also the amazing things about being a plant pathologist, especially for researchers and in those who work in the academe. You get to present your work. If you're lucky enough, you go to various countries as well. So this particular conference was in London in the UK. So I was able to attend this last 2018. Now, if you're on track with a plant pathology major or a crop protection major, you'll have the chance to go to amazing places, particularly outside the country or even in these places in the Philippines you have never been to. So many of our research staff have never traveled before. Even when I started working here at UPLB, I've never been away from Bukidnon or even in Mindanao, so it was a chance to go to other places. Life experiences, you'll get to know a lot of people, you'll expand your networks, and you'll work with people who are experts in the field. And this is something that you would cherish. By the end, after you retire, then you realize that most of the people you met are through it will be through working. This hold on. All right, so I think I've got disconnected for a while. So let's continue. So you'll also have opportunities. When it comes to opportunities, this includes scholarships and work. So you don't stop from being a graduate with a BS degree or with a BS degree, but you can expand that by pursuing a master's degree, or also a PhD if you're lucky, if you're finished with your MS degree already. Some potential opportunities for plant pathology and crop protection graduates. You could work in a university doing research or teaching. You can work in commercial agriculture research. So these are research companies that are private. You can work in the government, either in a service lab or doing extension work. You can do entrepreneurship or business on your own, nurseries, product development, especially if you're working in a chemical company and also you're trying to market these products as well. You can do biotechnological research, work in nurseries and botanical gardens, landscape management, food safety industry. You can work in seed company as well. Homeland or plant biosecurity if you're working in the Bureau of Plant Industries, the National Plant Quarantine Services Division. And also you could be an advocate for environmental protection as well. Some potential employers, state universities and colleges, the Department of Agriculture and its various sub-agencies, Department of Science and Technology, commercial seed companies, chemical and seed pesticide companies, and some other various companies that produce various crops. So for example, Del Monte, Dole, Lapanday, there's a lot of various companies or industries in Mindanao, and even they're expanding in Visayas and in Luzon as well. Now, let's know about what other graduates would say about having a BS degree in plant pathology, an agriculture major in plant pathology, and crop protection. So here's Deborah, and Deborah is one of our researchers here. So she said that being a graduate of PSA plant pathology provided her an excellent training and glimpse and experience of her future. So she's quite happy with what she's doing now. And she said that it was fun and she's learning a lot from the experience outside the four corners, which is not just limited to the classroom. She also said that the future of those majoring in crop protection or plant pathology isn't just limited to plant pathology itself, but there are a lot of opportunities for graduates with a degree in agriculture major in pathology. And she ended with a future is bright for those majoring in plant pathology or crop protection, because the field is an indispensable component of the industry. So I shown you earlier how important plant pathologists role is in terms of food security and food safety. And I hope that you would remember that as you, if you're taking plant pathology now or crop protection, you know that you are playing a role in food security and food safety, not just for your generation, but the generation of your children as well. So here's Cindy. Cindy is from Bukidnon. So she's a graduate of agriculture, again, major in plant pathology. And she said that the degree helped her doing her work at Fruity, which is a private company, and he was able to apply these learnings in her work, particularly mycology, bacteriology, and hematology. and the techniques she have learned from university help her to do her tasks or activities with confidence. This is Dr. Tammy Solpot from the University of Southern Mindanao, and Tammy said that he believes that crop protection will play a major role in crop productivity and sustained economic growth because we are always confronted with these pests and diseases. So, with a degree in plant pathology, you'd be able to help in contributing or contribute to this role in crop productivity and sustained economic growth. Junrei is a graduate of BS Agriculture major in plant pathology from Central Mindanao University, and now he's studying a PhD in agricultural science, major in plant pathology or plant breeding at the University of Western Australia. Junrei said that one of the most valuable skills that he has learned or developed when studying plant pathology was actually thinking critically. So it helps you think critically, and you become a better problem solver, and these skills can immensely help you navigate challenges in your academic and even in your personal life as well. This is Professor J.P. Estigoy. He's a graduate of the BS in Agriculture major in crop protection. So for them, it's not just serving yourself or your family, but also serving the community as well. So here he used his degree to make a significant contribution in producing clean and safe vegetables through hydroponic production system in Nueva Ecija. Alan Sefer Tagupa is from the Department of Agriculture in Region 2, and he said that his BS degree is an important factor in providing service to his clients, achieving and promoting safety food as well. And he's doing it through precise disease diagnosis and providing disease management recommendations. From Tom Espano, he is working in a private company. One of the benefits that he got from having this degree was he was hired easily when he applied for work, and he's also said that he built a network with industry people, and he's also receiving rewarding compensation plus benefits as well, so mostly from the private industry. Lastly, Darwin Landicho is an agriculturist at the Bureau of Plant Industry. And for Darwin, it's not only for himself, it's not a personal thing, but also something that can be considered as a patriotism. So for him, being a graduate of this degree equipped him with the right skills and mindset to pursue a career in plant pathology. And he's a graduate of UPLB, so he thinks that with his UPLB's mantra, which is Scholar para sa Bayan, it fueled his desire to work in the government service, particularly in the field of plant quarantine, and that provided him an opportunity to serve the country and support the Philippine plant industry. And I want to talk about my life because probably later on someone will ask that. So we end the presentation there, but the focus probably will have more time discussing things anyway, or any clarifications you have about careers in crop protection. But generally what I presented to you are some of the pathways that could be considered, or some of the opportunities that you will have when you take BS Agriculture major in plant pathology or major in crop protection. So I think I'm going to turn you over to Jared now, and we'll probably discuss some questions or trivias now if you have. Thank you, Jared.
Presentation. And indeed, agriculture extends beyond farming. Every specialization has a role to play in the vast field of agriculture, just like crop protection. So mga ka-agri, send your questions in the live chat, and to our viewers who have some questions to our speaker, during our discussion, our faculty in the College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries will also joining us with the discussion our active faculty, Mr. Earl Adam Lambaco. Good morning, sir. Okay, so our faculty is still not available due to technical problems. I think we will read some questions from our viewers. I will be moderating the questions from our viewers. Once again, thank you, sir, for your presentation. Wonderful presentation indeed. It really fuels our agriculture students in their field of crop protection. Maybe our first year and second year students are now thinking of having crop protection as their major now. All right, so I think our system, okay, thank you, sir, for your very inspiring presentation by Rizel Sagarino. So Rizel Sagarino is also a faculty at the College of Agriculture and was able to study at UPLB as well. So maybe friend sila or kaila sila ni sir.
I haven't met Rizal, but probably by face
Okay.
value, I've seen her somewhere. So yeah, good to see you, Rizal, and thanks very much for the very kind comment.
Okay. So I think we're waiting for the questions from our. Okay, here's a question from our student or from one of our viewers, Ray Gigakit. Good morning. I'd like to know what are the most academic challenges that a student majoring in crop protection may expect.
All right, so that's quite a very casual question that you get when you're actually studying with any degree, not just in crop protection. But I think it's relative to what is considered as a challenge, because for some it's a challenge, for some it's more of a motivation. So I wouldn't say that in general this answer would be applicable to many students who are majoring in crop protection. But I think many would say that probably working with microorganism is not very easy, because you have to deal with them in a way that you have to avoid contamination. So one challenge is really working with microorganisms to make sure that your materials are not contaminated. Some don't want to go to the field and do collections because it's, they just don't like doing it. But field collection is really part of being a plant pathologist, because you need to see what's happening in the field, and it's important that you actually understand what is happening in the field. And I think another challenge is the writing. I think not everyone enjoys writing reports,
Indeed.
especially for laboratory experiments, but you have to really overcome that, because after you finish your BS degree, you are going to write anyway reports again. So make the most of it, that you're during your college years, you're doing practices in writing, because trust me, you are going to use the writing as an important tool later on, whether you're working in a university, whether you're working in a private industry. That will help you a lot when you know how to write reports, when you know how to critically assess report on experiments as well. So make good of this writing skill while you're still in college, I think. I hope I answer your question right.
All right, thank you, sir. With regards to writing, sir, how did you start, or was it difficult for you to write papers or reports at the very start, or it was just something that you like to really do?
Yep. No, it's not something I'd like to really do. That's a fallacy. I have to write. I think the motivation was I have to submit something, and if I don't, then I won't get my degree. So that's a motivation there, that if you really want to get your degree, you need to do the things that will allow you to get that degree. So make sure that you know what are the requirements to getting that degree. So with your goal on a vision, you see that goal, you know what's going to contribute to getting that goal, then you need to put effort in making in improving your skills in those areas. So writing was really very difficult at start for me. Even now, there's always a challenge. But I guess when you really have to put into yourself that, or to consider to really think that I need to write because I need to submit a report or a paper. So I guess you just need to have that discipline to work on different methods where you can improve your writing or get someone or a mentor to help you with your writing. And that's where supervisors, advisors, and mentors come handy, because they are going to help you with how to deal with these writing problems, especially mental blocks. So they're there for a reason. So I guess you need to ask. Don't feel bad asking questions, or if you have problems with your writing, there's a purpose why they're called advisor, mentors, and supervisors.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. I think our faculty is already available, and instead of Mr. Earl Adam Lambaco, we have our faculty of the College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries, Miss Joanny Langres. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Sir Dad. Thank you Dad, for introducing me. Sir Mark, long time no see.
Yes,
It's good to see
Joanne, long
you.
time no see.
Yeah, thank you for
Very happy to see you.
accepting this invitation. Okay, so thank you for your presentation, sir. Now we are actually welcome for questions class. Okay, so sir, here's one question. Sir, are the diseases found in plants is something that they are inborn with, or plants upon growth doesn't bear diseases?
Yes, thanks for that question, Elma. There are what we call latent infection or quiescent infection. So that means that these organisms are already in the plant, but the plant don't show any disease because the organism is not active. So they stay there for a while, and for some reason they become active and cause the disease. There are also what we call endogenous viruses. These viruses are already embedded in the DNA of the plant, and they're not harmful until something happened with the plant. Let's say the plant was stressed, and after this stress process, that activated the virus, and the plant then shows this symptom. So there are endogenous, and there are also endophytes. That this apologies for this technicalities, but it is possible that some of these pathogens that cause the disease are just lurking or hiding in these plants, and they will be activated anytime. But the question is when and how is something that plant pathologists also work on as part of the research. So it's really interesting when you found something that allows you to think why this happened, how will this happen. So that's part of this critical thinking skill that is important for any student who is going to take plant pathology or crop protection major in the field.
Absolutely. So here in class now, we have these soil-borne diseases, we have these seed-borne diseases. So yun, more questions? Okay, well, we still ayun, Ma'am Rizal. Sir, do you accept OJT students in your lab once everything goes normal?
Yeah, thanks, Rizal. I was thinking about what is normal these days, because it seems everything is normal. That's a good question that I don't have any answer at the moment. So it's because we have rules to follow, and that depends on how ready or prepared we are in terms of handling health-related issues because of this pandemic. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that that pandemic is not part of the equation. We do accept OJTs, but it's not. It depends on our workload because we have projects and research projects, and we have a lab that can. There's a lot of people in the lab, so we need to prioritize our research requirements. But we do in the past accepted different our students from different universities. In fact, some students from Central Mindanao University would come here for a few days just to roam around the lab. We have OJTs from Batangas State Universities, but they don't stay long because uh, our researchers have to do work as well. But it really depends on how long and what kind of OJTs that you're looking at in terms of skills development for these students. But primarily, the lab is a research institute, so it should accept or support students who wants to do research or experience research in plant pathology. So hopefully, Ma'am Rizal, in the normal time, I don't know what's normal now, but in the normal time, hopefully we would be able to cater some OJT requests from other universities. But for now, we're only accepting. Um, in fact, we're not accepting any OJTs from UPLB. So probably, if that would be allowed, it will be UPLB students first, and then expand that from other universities as well. Thank you.
Okay, so nindo kayo pamalandungon na that we will be given a chance. The other students from other universities will be given a chance. GT in the particularly the plant pathology laboratory in the future. Okay, you know, I also work in IPB. I do my thesis there, and it's a nice experience. You will get to know a lot of people in the field of production, which is a lot of things that you cannot experience with other laboratories. Be more exposed techniques, different equipment. So we pray for the opportunity. Okay, another question. Sir Nick Bonis. Good morning, sir. Aside from plant pathology, what discipline under agriculture is most useful to you? Can you give us a brief insight about your PhD dissertation?
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Nick. The field would depend on the kind of research that you do. So in my PhD dissertation, I was looking at soil-borne diseases. So um, um, and an understanding on the soil biology is important. So soil biology and ecology was critical in my dissertation because I was also looking at what compounds are released by the roots. So I was looking at the chemistry of the root exudates as well. So the field of chemistry was very useful or was important for me to finish my dissertation. So I guess most of these life sciences, biology, microbiology, um, soil science, and even entomology are important because if you're working with plant viruses, you need to know what are the insect vectors of these viruses. Now, going back to my dissertation, I was more interested on what were the chemicals released by potato root exudates or roots, and does this chemical or do these chemicals present in the root exudates activates the plant. So I was interested on using some of these chemicals to activate the pathogen in the soil in the absence of the host plant. And in the absence of the host plant, when that pathogen is activated, it will die. So we call that zoospore suicide because they couldn't find any host plant. So you're actually reducing the inoculum in the soil using chemicals that are released by your host root. Interestingly, many of these amino acids and organic acids can stimulate the zoospores. And so you could use that as a replacement for synthetic pesticides. So we're trying to look at greener agriculture or sustainable way of controlling the diseases away from the use of synthetic pesticide. So as I've said, Nick, it depends on what research you're doing, and that will expand to the disciplines that is relevant to that research. So if you're working with plant viruses, then entomology is important because of the vector viruses. You also need some idea about the molecular biology as well if you're working with DNA and RNA viruses. So yes, so I hope I made some clarification with that, Nick. But for me, during my dissertation, it was more on chemistry and soil biology in my case.
Okay, thank you, Sir Mark, for answering Sir's question. So basically, we know that plant pathology or crop protection should work synergistically with other fields. Okay, another question from Rizame Sarmiento. Good morning, sir. Is it feasible to increase natural animals population with highly attacked crops?
That's one way of getting rid of this pest, actually. So many, not many, but some farmers consider natural enemies as a way to combat these pests that attacks the crop. And these farmers are mostly organic farmers. So different way of farming applies requires an application of a method that is allowed for that certain way of farming. So for organic farmers, they use biological control agents, and that includes natural enemies as well. So I guess the problem is when these natural enemies overpopulate in the field and would become pests to humans or to animals as well, because they might be natural enemies for these pests, but they could be some irritant to people and to animals as well. So I guess a knowledge on natural pests and pests themselves would be a good starting to have a better understanding of when to stop using natural enemies and when is the best time to use them against this particular pests. So I guess if you're a plant pathology major, you would also tackle about natural enemies in one of your subjects or courses. And yeah, if you're very interested with that, I think it's a good thesis as well because it's not as sustainable as resistant plants for disease management, but that's more relatively greener or sustainable compared to the use of synthetic pesticides that might also kill the natural enemies in the field.
Yes. They have a subject, Sir Mark, called official microorganism. So
That's
it's a
true.
good thing that they are really interested in using natural enemies instead of synthetic chemicals. Okay, another question from would recommend for graduate
Yeah.
studies.
Right. Scholarship. It depends. There are two types of scholarship. The first one are government aids, and the second one are those scholarship provided by universities and some uh, private companies or sponsorships. So for government sponsored scholarships, you have the New Zealand aid in New Zealand, the Aus aid from Australia. You also have the British Chevening in UK. You have DAAD in Germany. You have Fulbright in the US, and some other university scholarship as well. So the other option is to get these university scholarships because there is no ties, or you don't have to go home and serve the country afterward. So what you need to do is really just email potential supervisor and ask them if they would accept PhD students or MS students, apply for it, and then go with the process. So I think now there's heaps of scholarship available. What you need to do is just really apply for it. So in Belgium, you have the Belarus scholarship. I'm not sure if I think many of the people, many staff in Caraga State University are recipients of this scholarships. So there's a lot of scholarships available right now overseas, but because of the pandemic, I think you need to consider first whether you have to do it now or later on. But you'll never run out of scholarship. It's really just what you wanted to study and whether the scholarship will impact your future plans of either pursuing further degree right after you finish the scholarship or go back to the country to serve the country or do work before you do another scholarship abroad. But there are many scholarships available, and every country has a scholarship specific for Southeast Asian nation or citizens from the Southeast Asian nation, including the Philippines. But you can still apply for scholarship in the in the Philippines. There's Fed, there's DUST, there's DA So um, there's always opportunities within in the country and more opportunities as well abroad.
Okay, well answered question now. So students who would like to pursue their master's degree or PhD degree in abroad, Sir Mark already mentioned that listed those scholarships, and this is the websites to have these to have informations. So we have another question from Magike. What are the constant factors in the evaluation of crop protection extension services?
Mhm. Um, Thanks, Jo. I'm not an extension pathologist uh, from an expert perspective, but we've done several extension activities. I think there are three factors to consider. One is your recipient, the second is the environmental factor or resource, and the third is your research. So we'll start with research, your research, the one providing the extension. I think one of the constraints is that you don't really have all the answers to the question asked by the farmer or the grower. And that's one of the constraints. Second is resources. You can't do research or you can't find solution to a problem when you don't have those resources, and that affects your implementation of this extension service because if the answer to this question is not available in the literature, then you might want to do the experiment to find the answer to the question. The last one is that the farmer doesn't always accept your explanation, and that's a constraint because I think in extension you call them the laggards, the ones that they don't usually immediately accept face front upfront your face value your explanation to a particular thing or your they can't be easily persuaded, and that's one of the constraints because your purpose is really for them to understand that this happens, that method A is working, then method B, you should stop doing this because it will affect your health or whatever. So it's not a single factor, but multiple factors from the one providing the information, the one receiving the information, and the environment where these informations are being um, transferred. So I guess it's not a one-shot factor, but multiple factors considered, including the farmer or the grower that is receiving the information that you are providing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Aside from to our farmers, the major problem is their acceptance of the technology to them. Okay, usually the farmers will wait na the next farmer or neighboring farmer is doing well with the new technology introduced bago sila mag-adopt. So they are laggards. Another question from Mauro Goyo. Good day. What are the positive and negative effects of genetically modified plants to the human body?
Wow, I put a spotlight now. I don't know, Mauro. Actually, don't know, and I'm not a doctor as well, and I haven't done any research about this kind of effect to the human body. So, as much as I would like to answer the question, I can't provide any answer to that question. And I've never read about much of this work because there's no work that have used humans as test materials for genetically modified organisms as well. So we'll never know until those data shows some convincing evidence that there is a positive or negative effect on the human body. So apologies, Mauro, if I would not be able to answer your question.
Yes, it's a long ano, it's a long explanation. It's a long genetically modified plants in our human body. Okay, another question, Sir Mark, from Judy May Francisco. Sir, I have a question. The corn will be harvested in about weeks, but there are worms. You need to spray it.
Okay, it depends on how fast the worm will eat your corn plant. So you need to observe the population of the worm and what kind of worm are these, or I'm not sure if you're referring to the full army worm or whatsoever, but if it do less harm anyway, and in about 2 weeks you will have to harvest your plant, I wouldn't, because that would add more, add more cost because you need to buy any chemical, and you'll never know if the chemical is going to be effective or not. So what if the chemical becomes effective after 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks time you will already have to harvest it? However, as I mentioned earlier, you need to assess how fast this worm eats eat the leaves or the. I don't think they would eat the corn ear unless they are worms that attack specifically the ear of the corn plant. So my advice for you is to go to your municipal agricultural officer, because probably they would be able to provide you a more direct and practical way of dealing with this one. But if about 2 weeks time the worm doesn't eat a lot of this plant tissues, I wouldn't mind not doing anything. But probably you can manually pick them. But if you have a lot, if it's a huge area, then try considering monitoring first how many worms or how much of these plants or how many of these plants were infected, and how fast the worms can eat your plant tissue. But I suggest you go to the municipal agriculturist and ask for a specific control measure. I'm not an entomologist, so I don't really much about the epidemiology of this corn pests. So I might giving you a method of control that may or may not work. So yes, that's about it, Judy. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Sir Mark. So, yun, Miss Judy May, you need to identify first what is the pest and what is the best control strategy. So, it is not always good to, to mudiretso ta sa chemical control. Okay, maybe there are management strategies that is affecting, has not impact. Okay, we have this issue of pesticide residue, especially if the plants, especially if you will spray a pesticide to a plant that is about to harvest.
Mhm.
Sir, which would you prefer, farming or non-organic farming in preventing plant diseases?
Okay. So it's a different question now. But the thing about organic farming and non-organic farming is that it's a choice. There's no such thing as best way in preventing a disease. And for plant pathologists and crop protectionists, you don't choose which method that you would use your degree to help the farmer. So regardless if it's organic or non-inorganic, you'll still get disease, because pathogens are evolving. So whether you get them from an organic farm or non-organic farm, you will still find these pathogens or diseases. The thing about organic farming is that there are um, more good organisms around as well. So that helps in combating these pests or diseases. And the good thing about non-organic is that it's so organized in such a way that only a few diseases would appear, but they could be destructive as well. So um, I wouldn't say that a system can help prevent a disease, but probably the way you manage the disease would come more of a factor rather than which system, organic or non-inorganic. So you'll still get disease anyway, but I think it's a farmer's choice. I wouldn't pick which one, but it's a farmer's choice because one method there are advantages, but there are also disadvantages. In our non-organic farming, there are advantages, of course, but there are also disadvantages. So it really depends on which one you would choose. But regardless if it's organic or non-inorganic, both can prevent plant diseases. Both can also um, stimulate or cause an epidemic on plant diseases. So I guess you have to start with healthy plants, whether organic or non-inorganic. You have to start with healthy soil and also making sure that you have practices where you prevent the entry of any disease materials to your field, regardless if it's organic or non-inorganic. So once the pathogens enter your field, that might um, start the disease and spread towards your field, whether organic or inorganic.
Okay. So, Sir Mark, very well said. Wala akong maidagdag.
Dagdagan mo ito.
Okay. I think there are a lot of students who will go into crop protection major.
They should.
Very
Yeah.
interested in keeping their plants healthy.
True,
So
true.
another
It's
question
very
from
um,
yes, plant health. Okay, good morning, sir. Pro and Barley. Can you describe us any major to 5 years and now?
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Rowan. I'm not, because I'm in the academe, we don't really know much about what's happening in the industry aside from the obvious one, the ones that we see in conferences on where the industry is going and what they're doing right now. But there's a lot of work on alternative to synthetic. So many, for instance, in the pesticide industry, I think they're considering the use of botanicals and biological control agents in pest management with the use of pesticides. In the industry, in the crop industry, um, it it's really more on production and still using synthetic pesticides to control pests and diseases. So 3 to 5 years, there's not much change in the trend, but there is an acknowledgement that many growers now are being, would consider a much greener way of addressing pests and diseases, and that would be more on botanicals or um, biological control agents or biofungicides instead of the synthetic fungicide. Um, yes, but in the crop industry, I think pineapple, banana, they're still using pesticide as a control, but they're very strict with biosecurity now. That means to say that in one farm, they're making sure that no one enters there without dipping their boots, dipping the cutting tools to make sure that they don't spread the disease. So there is this still rampant use of probably potentially the use of chemicals in the management of these diseases. But actual data on the trend, we don't have that. Um, But as I've said, there's probably this shift or acknowledgement towards much a relatively safer way of controlling these pests and diseases.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, we are now moving to a greener way of controlling pests and diseases. So, tama na, hindi naman sa tama. Pero we are more in, mitigating the application of pesticides. Okay, di ba we have this problem in pest resurgence, pesticide resistance, so yun. So from Magical Cloribel, thank you, sir. That was really informative. Okay. Another question, Sir Mark, from Maureen Alexander Jr. How vital is proper disease diagnosis in plant pathology?
So that's very critical, actually, very important, very vital, because if you misdiagnose or misappropriately diagnose the the cause of the disease, then you're likely going to give wrong methods of control as well. So the diagnosis is important in the recommendation of the control. So if you say that this disease was caused by a fungus, and then you recommended a particular method that is only effective on the fungus, but then the real cause of the disease was a bacteria, then the the method is an added labor or an added cost to the farmer, but it doesn't have any effect on the disease or the pathogen. So that's why with the thing about being a plant pathologist is that um, even if you're working as an agronomist, you can still use your experience as a plant pathologist to identify the disease. But if you're an agronomist, but you don't have any idea about how to isolate the pathogen and identify the pathogen or diagnose the disease, then you can still do the agronomy part, but not the plant pathology part. But if you're a plant pathologist, you can do the plant pathology part, and at the same time, you can do the agronomy part. So that's one of the edges, I think, of having a plant pathology degree, because you still need to know more about your crop while also working on the disease or the pathogen. But for agronomists, they might only have one or two courses in crop protection. So I guess with having the plant pathology degree or major, you'd have more experience and training with the proper disease diagnosis, because it affects the way you will handle this disease in the field. So yes, Maureen, very, very important, very, very vital that you are properly diagnosing the disease in the field or in the garden before you make any recommendation on how you will solve this problem using the knowledge that you've learned about the management of the disease.
Exactly. So that one of the edge of being a crop protection major, to properly diagnose the disease or pest in the field. Okay, you know, if we have this share lang, if you have this farm and you have the resources, you have the for fertilizer, you have a nice planting material, resistance, high yielding planting material, then there will be a disease or a pest, and you don't know how to diagnose it, you don't know how to manage it, then there would be a lack of yield. So yun, protection major na ta.
But really, it's an advantage for crop protection because um, you're knowledgeable already with the crop. So if you're working with agronomic crop or horticulture crop, at the same time you're also knowledgeable with crop protection. But I have friends who are major in agronomy and horticulture, but they have to call me about problems with pests. But for plant pathologists, I don't call them if I have problem with fertilizer, because it's easier to make solution for fertilizer problem than have a solution for pest and disease problem. So that's true. That's one of the edges of having a plant protection degree, because you're shooting two birds in at one time, so, or one arrow, if I may say. So that's something to consider. Of course, it's case to case. It's not all the time that it's an edge for you to have that, but it takes effort as well to really study well in crop protection, so that you could use what you've learned when you're now in the actual field, working on an agricultural or agronomic crop or a horticultural crop. So, but yes, something to consider if you would like to have a knowledge in crop protection, at the same time, a knowledge on agronomy and horticulture.
Yes. I also have that experience, Mark, now that a friend of mine had called me and requested to visit her farm. Kay lagi, and I advise her to do this, and gladly thumbs up for the crop protection. She was able to control those diseases.
Mhm.
So yun, I think there will be a lot of crop protection major this first semester.
Hopefully.
So from Judy May Francisco, thank you, sir. Napabatay question?
Ikaw, Joe,
Yes, Sir Mark.
what's the best thing about being a crop protection or plant pathology graduate?
So, okay. Ako bang speaker ngayon?
Well, it's a conversation. So I thought, no, let's just stop talking about Mark this time. So how about Joanne? Because Joanne is a graduate of BS Agriculture major in plant pathology or crop protection. And you're doing well in your career right now. So how rewarding is it being a graduate with this degree?
So, I'm very glad that I chosen this field. Okay, we have this farm, and my papa is always asking me, "Jo, unsa may buhaton ani?" And I'm happy that though I am not that expert, I have this small knowledge in best management strategies. Friends are calling for help, and I think it is grateful, or I can give them advice in mitigating those pests and diseases in the farm, and help reducing the potential yield loss in the field. And that is in the farm aspect. In the academic aspect, I am much more glad because I was able to my master's degree in plant pathology and enhance those knowledge, more help to our farmers. And a lot of opportunities has come in my way. So
Yeah.
one of those is I was able to meet you.
Is that an opportunity? I thought it was like, oh, I met Sir Mark.
It's a blessing, Sir Mark. Okay,
Mhm.
no, blessing that I came from plant pathology lab, exposed a lot of people doing research, and attended a lot of conferences.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of actually opportunities waiting for being an fields, everywhere. Like in other specializations, daghang opportunities.
Yeah.
It is just that unsa man imong gusto.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
that's right, Joanne. I think to
Mm-mm.
have the vision, and the good thing about now na nag-start yung mga students to hear something like this is that they will create their vision 2 or 4 years from now, what they would become. So if they want to be a plant pathologist, they know that after the end of the degree, they don't just end up working in a private company because that's their pathway. Because when I was during my BS degree time, all I know is that I have to teach or work in a chemical or crop industry. But then, because there was no exposure of what possibilities or opportunities are available, so with this early exposure to ay meron parang ganun, so you can try, you know, take the risk of, okay, I'll try research for 3 to 6 months. Let's say, am I gonna like it or not? If you do, then pursue a career in that. So I've never had any vision of doing research. So all I know is that I was working in this company for 3 months, and I was very bored about what I'm doing. And suddenly there's this opportunity from one of my professors in college saying, would you like to go to UPLB and do a research for it? And then I said, okay, I'll try. So, but I was very thankful for that. So I guess there are opportunities along the way that will be introduced into you, and there's no harm in taking the risk, whether the opportunity will work for you or not. But before you do that, you also have to consider, is this going to be good for my family? Because we have a very different circumstances. So for me, because I was, you know, fresh grad, I don't have to think about my parents because my father was working. So for others, it's a very different circumstance. And with that, you have to consider or to factor in your family as well. So I guess at the end of the day, it's a decision you make for yourself. You don't follow what others, you know, did, but you need to consider as well your, is it okay to leave your family and go somewhere else to do research? If it's okay, then do it. If it's not, then find other opportunities. But you know, there's, it's not just one or two opportunities, there are more opportunities as long as you keep finding them, if you keep looking for them. But if you stop and just say, I'm happy with this, then okay, that's still good. At the end of the day, it's a choice. If you make that choice, then you have to be very prepared about this consequence of making those choices again. But as I said, don't stop from, or don't stop thinking that you can only be a teacher after your degree, or someone working for a company for the sake of having a salary. So if you think that you can produce more output for the community and for the country, then that's good. And if you can do more advanced degree after that, then better for yourself as well. So you'll be more useful as well too, because you've learned more, and then more uses of this wisdom, or you know, of this knowledge as well, and put it in practice if you're in agriculture.
Yes, exactly, Sir Mark. So I also have this motto in life, no? Fear is a barrier of success. So don't fear. Just go with the flow. Go with your passion. Go whatever you want to do in life. Whatever major
Yeah.
you want to enroll, just go. Basta
Whatever
the
major.
important basta the important thing is gusto ni mo na siya. Kaya
Yes, and you have, go
you
ahead,
will
Jo.
accept yeah, you will exert more effort, you will be more dedicated if you like your major.
Yep, that's definitely
Mm,
true. So if you
mm,
actually, you have to put effort, you have to put interest and commitment. So let's say now you say,
mm.
okay, I want to be a plant pathology major or a crop protection major. Then own it. Put effort,
Yes,
put,
exactly.
sabi ni Joanne, passion. So you can just select your degree. I want to be an agronomist, but then do nothing. You just go with the flow like what other students do. So you know there are opportunities, but these opportunities are not for everyone. This opportunity are for those who are willing, committed, and disciplined. So study well, be committed, priority, know your priorities if you want to graduate, and you'll have more opportunities as well when you're doing well in college, because
Exactly.
sometimes some of these opportunities are competitive. It's not that, okay, my scholarship, it's not like that. There's a scholarship, but you need to have a certain grade. It's a scholarship, but you need to have a recommendation. So if you're not doing well in college, how would your professor would recommend you to a scholarship if he or she knows that you're like this when you're in college? So you have to invest in what you are trying to achieve in the next 2 to 4 years, and you cannot achieve that, or you may achieve that, but how, the quality of achieving that, how much investment that you put into it's not just about money, but it's how many times you have to wake up at 7, but you chose to wake up at 8 or 9 and be late, di ba? So small things, but these things matter when it comes to opportunities in the future. So you still need to do good, regardless of what course or major you choose. You still have to invest. You still have to you put hard work, commitment, dedication, and most importantly, discipline. And if you can, find a good mentor in college. Listen to them, and if they can provide you with a good practical way of dealing with problems and challenges in writing and research, then be surrounded with them and choose the people who you work with or you study with, because um, if if you have 5 friends, and five of the all of these friends like to hang out, drinking beer every weekend, then you're likely to be someone drinking beer in the weekend as well. So you are the average of the 4 or 5 people you are with. So if you're likely to end up with a group of people who studies and are interested with nature, interested with why things happen, how things happen, and can we do more than what we're supposed to do as a student, then that's an edge with other people. So yeah, I guess at the end of the day, you still have to do your work, not just pick your degree. You might have picked a degree in agriculture, major in plant pathology, but still you're doing nothing, or still doing the same thing that other degree students are doing. Then you're not different from them. So opportunities come, but sometimes these opportunities are competitive, and you have to really put that in mind as well.
Yes. So that was a reminder for our students to study well. Dili lang ta sigigtik. And what else? Dili lang sigig Mobile Legend. More opportunities coming in your way. Work for it. Okay, opportunities are pero dili na siya ginahatag dayon. We need to work for it. So thank you so much, Sir Mark. Our students are really inspired.
All right, so to all our viewers, did you
Okay,
enjoy
Joanne.
the Okay. So to all our viewers, did you enjoy the interesting discussions? Indeed, that was a very enjoyable and interesting and productive discussion we have today. Thanks to our resource speaker, Dr. Mark Angelo O. Balendres, a research plant pathologist and laboratory head of the Plant Pathology Laboratory Institute of Plant Breeding of UPLB. Thank you as well to Ma'am Joanny Langres, our faculty in crop protection in the College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries. So don't forget to all our viewers, mga ka-agri, don't forget to answer the evaluation form posted in the live chat to get a certificate of participation. And to award the certificate of appreciation to our source speaker, let me read the citation first. AgriStorya Certificate of Appreciation is given to Mark Angelo O. Balendres for imparting his knowledge and expertise as resource speaker in AgriStorya Career Path in Crop Protection. Given this 19th day of July 2021 at the College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries, Caraga State University, Main Campus, Ampayon, Butuan City, Agusan del Norte. Signed, Elizabeth P. Parak, the College Dean of CSU, College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and interesting discussions to all our viewers.
Thank you so much, Jared, and to everyone as well for listening today. I hope we've imparted some knowledge or experiences that would persuade them for taking plant pathology plant pathology major or crop protection majors. And also, again, I'd like to thank Dean Elizabeth Barak and Joanne Langres for this opportunity to talk to your students. And of course, Jared, thanks very much. You've been very spontaneous today, and also Joanne for a great discussion about plant pathology, taking plant pathology majors. So thanks very much for this opportunities to everyone. Thank you, Caraga State.
Thank you, Sir Mark. So to gain other insights in the agriculture specialization, follow us and register on our in upcoming AgriStorya web talk series. If anybody else has questions for AgriStorya, don't hesitate to contact us. Visit and like our college, FB page, which College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries FB page, and be updated on our latest activities. So we would be happy to answer if you send your questions on our FB page. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time and have a great day. God bless everyone.